There is a lot of game series out there that died way before they should have. And I'm sure many people out there are a massive fan of these games and would one day love to see them come back in some form. Today, I'm going to be talking about some of those games and ones that I personally would really love to see return. But it doesn't look too likely that any of these will return for reasons I will get into. But yeah, I guess let's just get into it. Saints Row. It is really sad to see what happened in this game and why it took the direction it took. A lot of people who haven't played or kept up with Saints Row just look at it and call it a GTA clone, which, I mean, while it definitely did take a bunch of influence from GTA, it did end up being its own thing for sure, and it has its own charm to it. Saints Row 1 and 2 took on a more serious tone to them, and I think it's a lot of the reason people call it a GTA clone, even though it isn't true. But 3 and 4 shifted the series into a far more upbeat and jokey kind of fun game, you know? And while a lot of the comedy doesn't really land, it was cool having a game similar to GTA, not taking itself seriously at all, with you even having crazy ass superpowers in 4, which many people hate, but I honestly thought it was pretty fun. Anyways though, the series has enjoyed quite a bit of success on the financial side of things, with the series selling roughly 13 million units, so it was bound to see another game. This one, however, was a little different and was actually a reboot of the series, and when it was revealed, I don't think many people were happy. With the trailer being a radical departure from Saints Row, many people knew and loved, because it was honestly just pretty cringe through and through, and I don't even really like using the word that often, but regardless, the game came out, and it was terribly received, unsurprisingly, with the game being super buggy, not fun, and also just not at all what Saints Row once was or what it felt like. It didn't actually sell too horribly, roughly 1 million units, but apparently it needed 2 million to break even, and while we don't know if it hit that metric or not, it's quite unlikely that it did. While the failure of the game is sad enough on its own, it actually had far more consequences than just the game itself failing. With Volition, which is the developer of the series, actually fully getting closed down in August 2023, which you absolutely hate to see it, and it's very sad for everyone who lost their job. Volition employees have even gone on record and said that internally the game was just a fucking nightmare, with the whole team being divided on what they wanted this game to be, and ultimately think that that was one of the reasons for its failure. But yeah, it's always really sad to see a game that was once great fail in the end, and especially when a lot of people lost their jobs and livelihoods over it. This fucking game, man, it's so sick! This is actually one of only 2 Metal Gear games that I have played, with the other one being MGS5. The interesting thing about this game is that Kojima actually almost had nothing to do with it, and he basically just did promotional stuff and gave ideas for that, with nothing to do with scripting and characters. And with Metal Gear being a weird-ass franchise, it's quite impressive that Metal Gear Rising was able to replicate that style so well, especially with Kojima being quite hands-off with the game. The combat in this game is so insanely fun and makes you feel like a badass at every turn. But the best part? The fucking music, man. The music is so insane. Every boss track is just You feel like such a god during these boss fights. Here, here's some of my favorite songs from the game.
I finally found what I was looking for, a place where I can be without remorse, because I am a stranger who is bound in even stranger war. I finally found what I was looking for. When the wind is low and the fire's hot, the vulture waits to see what rots. Oh, I'm ready. All the scenery, this is nature's sacrifice. When the air blows through with the brisk attack, the reptile tail ripped from its back. Where the sun sets, we will not forget the red sun over paradise.
Just like, wow. So good, man, and they went so unnecessarily hard here. The game actually sold pretty well and had a massive resurgence due to memes featuring the game being everywhere. So, why hasn't there been another one? Well, if you don't know already, Kojima and Konami split up in 2015 and there hasn't been a new Metal Gear game since. Well, there was one. But much like people say with Smash and how there could be no Smash Bros. Without Sakurai, the same is 100% true for Kojima and Metal Gear. And we've already seen evidence of that with Metal Gear Survive being one of the most butchered games of all time. That shit is, wow, so bad. Even though Kojima didn't have much part in Rising, it's still his universe that they would be using, and quite frankly, I think Konami is just scared to ever touch the Metal Gear franchise again after Survive, which is really unfortunate because they could just hire some guys, go hands off with it, and make a really fucking good Metal Gear again, because Lord knows that Konami cannot do it themselves. But yeah, while I really do want a new game in the franchise, I also just really don't want to see what Konami would do with it, because that is just, that's a very scary thought. For those of you who don't know, Infamous is a sort of superhero-like game where you get all of these kind of cool powers, but the other cool thing is that you don't exactly have to be a hero. It has a fully fledged karma system in which if you do good things, you are treated as a good person and receive good outcomes, but if you are bad, you are treated as evil and get the bad endings and such. Which is a very cool system and definitely one of the best ways a system like this has been pulled off in a game. Infamous has done pretty well for itself, with the first game selling pretty decently and the second being one of the best selling PS4 games at launch. In my opinion, Infamous pulls off the power fantasy better than any game that I've ever played. The powers just feel so amazing to use and absolutely stunning visual effects to back them up. It's a game similar to Spider-Man PS4 where arguably the best part of the game is just traversing the world and getting to the next destination. With, I think, my favorite power being the neon one. You just look so fucking cool while moving, it's just like, ah! The combat in these games is just also quite good, and lives up to the power fantasy as well. With things like the rock power feeling super weighty, and pack a lot of punch when you hit enemies with it. Another really neat detail I feel like goes pretty unnoticed is that when you have bad karma, the colors of the powers change subtly for each power to be a more dark and evil color, which is so fucking dope, and it always made me want to be evil because the colors look way cooler in my opinion. But yeah, Infamous isn't really dead because of poor reception and financial failure, it more just stopped. Basically, the developer of the game, Sucker Punch Studio, who made the Sly Cooper games if you aren't aware, also developed Ghost of Tsushima, which also did really well for the PS4 and was an amazing game. And to put it simply, it just seems like Sucker Punch is going to focus on a sequel to that and maybe even more new IPs for the time being. But with it being almost 10 years since the last Infamous entry at this point, God, I feel so old now. I really hope that one day we can return to Infamous because I really love this franchise. This is honestly probably one of my favorite DS games ever. It just perfectly encapsulates everything that the DS stood for, in my opinion, with amazing and intuitive touch controls and great use of both the screens. But even more than that, it sports an absolutely amazing and really creative soundtrack that sounds different from any game out there. The game also has a really amazing story that tackles themes about being able to live life to the fullest and how life is just simply what someone can make out of it. Hence the title, The World Ends With You. I think I'm also just starting to slowly realize that the trope of the main character being kind of an asshole at first but slowly becoming more and more human throughout their journey it's just an instant sell for me and wins me over every time. Looking at you, FF7 and Persona 3, definitely one of my favorite casts in all of gaming as well because of everything they go through here and just how well they bounce off of each other. All of their arcs just also get tied up so nicely and it's truly just an amazing game. Now, this game was actually pretty niche on the DS, selling roughly 600k copies, which is not bad, but surprisingly, almost 15 years later, it ended up getting a sequel called Neo, The World Ends With You, to which I would also give the same amount of praise to. It sports a whole new cast, although some of the old ones do come back here and there. But yeah, basically the same exact points I made about the first game also apply here. Although, obviously the gameplay is quite different because it's no longer on the DS and doesn't utilize touchscreen anymore. And while I definitely prefer the OG's gameplay, this one is also great and can be quite challenging at times. Now, what's the problem with this game and why hasn't it seen another entry? Well, you can basically fully blame that on Square, because the team who made this game really put their all into it, and you can tell when you play it. But what did Square do with that? Well, it's actually more what they didn't do with that. The game received next to zero advertising, and as a result, the game sold very, very poorly, with even Square themselves commenting on how it underperformed. I truly, with all my heart, believe that if this game got the proper advertising that it deserved, it would have possibly done even better than the first game, and it's such a shame that Square dropped the ball on this one, and just leaving so many of us fans pissed off at them. But yeah, it's unfortunately not looking very likely that another game in this series will ever be made. Well, that was definitely a more downer video that I'm not really used to making, so sorry for that, but at the very least, I hope some people find a game in here that they want to try and maybe end up really, really enjoying. Just don't go praying for future games in the series, because, we might be a little rough on that department. Well, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'm off to go play more Persona 3 Reload, baby! This game is absolutely perfect! Speaking of that, actually, I would also like to say that my next video is going to be a full comprehensive review of Persona 3 Reload, so please look forward to it. I would also like to thank everyone who watched and commented on my last video. It outperformed my expectations in every way, and I couldn't be more happy, to be honest, so thank you to all of you out there watching. And, of course, thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day.